right, Coach, we always enjoy having your media friends on the show, someone you work with the ESPN. And we see Stanford Steve on College Gameday. We see him with Scott Van Pelt. And I think you saw him in Athens a couple weeks ago for the Tennessee game, right?
Yeah, it was great to see Scott and all the people. I didn't get to see Scott Van Pelt, but I got to see Steve and his group. And it's a long time ago we got to know each other and had that common bond because we were both great football players in college. And but we were always talking about football up there when he was more involved with radio. And but I've been proud of his career and the way it's ascended, and now just a staple for all of college football. And everybody looks forward to Saturday mornings, but also your stuff on with Scott. Just a great relationship the two of you have. And welcome to our show. Glad to have you on there, Stanford Steve.
I appreciate it, Coach. You know, anything for you. Good to see you. Fired up to possibly see you in Atlanta. Get you out of the house. Get you where the ball is, man. It'd be good to see you in the mix.
Yeah, I'm going to be up there supporting the Dogs. And right off the bat, you were out there at College Station last week and had a chance to interact with the Texas people and the A&M. And what was your take? It just looked like Texas was in control of the line of scrimmage throughout the game.
Yeah, you know, there's a confidence Sark brings to the table. I think that instills in his house, in his locker room. You know, talking to coaches, they were super fired up because all you ever heard was the A&M angle. Hey, we got them coming to our place. Sark brought his team in the night before. I don't think Texas has ever done that. So there was a confidence instilled that we got the goods to show these guys, and we're going to bring the fight. And I thought they were super buttoned up. They obviously had some turnovers going in, which cost you and made the score look like it wasn't as close, or I should say made it look closer than it was. But, you go into that situation, you lose your best NFL player to left tackle Banks, and then a redshirt freshman kid, Gooseby, comes in. He only had one false start, and then he had an MA on the next play, and, they were buttoned up. Quinn's not 100%. You saw that. I know they were fired up to unleash their arch package, which led to their first touchdown, which really, really calmed some things down. But you could feel an energy boost when Arch came into the game. And, against Georgia, he got thrown into a tough spot. So I'm sure he has a little more confidence now than he did in that game in Austin when Georgia went there and gave it to him. So their defense is super quick, and they do a great – I mean, just like Georgia, I look at teams that could tackle in space, Coach, and Texas and Georgia I'd put up maybe over anybody in the country. That's what makes them special. That's what gets them out of some jams, and that's what gets their offense back on the field. So I'm super fired up for this matchup again.
Yeah, and talking about Banks, we had some success against him, particularly our Walker coming off the edge. But, he's a first-round draft choice. What's his injury situation right now? What do you hear about him?
It looked like being on the sidelines when he came out in a boot, it looked like he was telling his guy's ankle. This is my ankle. So I don't know if it's a high sprain, a regular sprain, if he was lying. I don't know. But I will say about that game, Coach, talking to the Texas guys, and when they went back and watched the tape, they used the word unconventional. They said Kirby was very unconventional in when he brought pressure and when he didn't. And it confused them. And, that's a tip of the hat to Georgia. Having a plan, what we always love about Georgia's defense, it always feels like they have a plan A, B, C, D, or E. Like they're never going to stop throwing punches. And I think you saw that. And they rattled Texas early. And, Georgia kept turning the ball over too. So the defense had to keep responding. And even in the toughest spots in the second half, when that crowd got in and water bottles and all that stuff, Georgia's defense was the best unit on the field, and I'm sure Kirby's going to rely on that being the case again Saturday.
Hey, talking about the ABCs, we got down to Z against Georgia Tech on the stage. We used everything in the alphabet, but let's just we're going to get into that Georgia game for the championship in a minute. But you had to be just like all of us, shocked about we've talked about off air about how good the roster is for Ohio State and all the things that are wrong with Michigan. But that just had to be an unbelievable situation. What's your take on the? You think they just got too tight and didn't use their people, or what happened in that game?
You know, we had our game day call Monday mornings, Coach, and I thought Coach Saban was great about it. He just brought up the idea how different that approach felt to him. You know, Ohio State kind of backed themselves into a corner with so much focus on the Michigan game and them not using the letter M and all the red tape and all that. And he's like, that's not the way I would go about things. I would go about games game by game. He's like, I felt that when he was, you know, with Indiana. But then this one and all the talk in the preseason and the portal and the amount of money you're spending in that, like they back themselves into being a one-game situation. And it's not even close to that case because they still could win a national championship. So I thought they were in their own heads a little bit. I thought there was one way Michigan could win that game, and it was self-inflicted wounds. You know, you look at, you know, missed field goals. You look at turnovers in the red zone. You look at turnover backed up. That's Michigan's only drive of the game. Their only touchdown. You know, they get a 4-yard drive or a 3-yard drive off the interception, and Ohio State just couldn't get it going. You know, Michigan's got a good defensive line, really good defensive tackles, and, you know, the injuries starting to add up for Ohio State on the offensive line. They couldn't handle. They couldn't run the ball. They were stubborn and keep trying to run the ball. And, you know, just the whole approach, I thought, you know, when you look back on it, was maybe not the way to go. You know, play your free Karen, you know, when you play against the Purdues and the Indianas, and they just look like totally two different teams. And it felt like a lot of it they put on themselves.
Steve, we know the talent that is on that Ohio State roster. We know the talent that's on an Alabama roster, but we also know college football world's a bit more down on them based on recent results, the Oklahoma loss for Alabama. Once you get into playoff season, and I'm thinking of this from a Georgia perspective a little bit, which are the teams that you're hoping not to see? Because I keep hearing people say Indiana, Boise, Arizona State. If you get them, you feel pretty good about it if you're one of the top tier teams. Who are the teams that you're hearing that teams want to avoid in a bracket?
Well, when you're looking at it from the top down, you know, I think there's a lot of seeding that's still going to, you know, I think Penn State has a chance against Oregon. That could flip, you know, where they are. But when you're just talking about teams, Georgia, obviously, because they're not as battle tested as anybody. I think Tennessee, I was super impressed with Tennessee, even though they lost at Georgia. The physicality, I thought they matched it. They just couldn't play 15 rounds of it. And, you know, I look at them as being very, very dangerous. Nico played his best game, I'd say, of his career in a spot last week where they absolutely needed it, being down double digits on the road. So Tennessee, Georgia, I think Texas is super tough. You know, when you get out of the SEC and we saw what they did to Michigan being there early in the season. They controlled that game, both lines of scrimmage. Offense did what they wanted. Defense, you know, brought the fight to Michigan. And then, you know, Oregon, you know, everybody's, you know, in the bottom of the bracket, we're picking on, you know, and everybody has their feelings about Bama, and now Miami's being behind them, you know, Ole Miss, those teams. But Oregon's schedule, and it's not their fault, like they didn't get tested that much. Like, how are they going to respond to a big fight? And, you know, they were at home for the Ohio State game. They were in a dogfight against a bad Wisconsin team. So it is about the matchups. I think if I'm like Notre Dame, I really want to try or hope to avoid a team like a Georgia or a Texas or even a Penn State, because Notre Dame's schedule, they haven't faced the defense all year. They really struggled against A&M. They were fortunate, but as we've seen the season go on, A&M's defense isn't, you know, they got NFL guys on there, but as a unit, I don't think they have enough players to compete with these playoff teams, and we've seen them go by the wayside. So if I'm Notre Dame, I'd like to try and avoid the teams with the elite defenses, because they haven't seen that, and you don't know how you're going to react to that. If that's the first, you know, punch you're taking and you're at home in a playoff game, these SEC teams are battle tested, and they won't have a problem bringing the fight.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's dreaming about maybe playing Arizona State and then next round beating going in there and playing against Boise in the first, in the second round. But who knows? But it's going to be the draw. But I think they've got it pretty well seeded out. I'm not that fired up about Indiana when you see what Alabama, Miami, South Carolina have compared to Indiana. But you got to give Indiana credit. Great job. Yeah. Let's just talk a little bit about the setup here. So give the fans a little bit of an idea about the inner workings of like you usually get in like the night before Friday and then get into the venue and start working on some stuff because you have to do some sports center stuff and things like that. But what's your normal week like this week here? What will you be doing going into Atlanta for game day?
I'll get to Atlanta Thursday, Coach. Figure out a good spot to go get some dinner. That's where I got to take you out in Athens when we got a good meal at Chuck's, and you knew the whole menu, even the secret menu, which I didn't even know, but that's being the veteran that you are. But we'll get a good meal in Thursday. Pop on the NFL game somewhere and watch that, get everybody in. And then Friday's Friday morning, usually like 9:30, we'll have a conference room somewhere, and that's where we'll all be. We'll all be set up in there and go through the 3-hour rundown of game day and just double check, the guys that are doing some tapes, they'll see those, our conversations, what are those going to be like, who's going to lead them, what time our coaches are coming on, what guests we have. We're slotted in that. We're going to hopefully have the winner of the Mountain West game Friday night join the show. So we'll pencil that somewhere, knowing that those are West Coast people, and we'll be on the East Coast, so they'll probably be later in the show. But then from there, Coach Saban will go tape his film room somewhere, and then there's different groups. Reese and Kirk will go do segments. Desmond will do his Sports Center stuff and Get Up and First Take and all that. And I'm more of the afternoon. We'll do a college football live, I'm pretty sure, from the convention center. And then, there's the bet show, and then there's, 6 o'clock Sports Center. And then we usually settle down around 6 or 7, and people go their own ways around dinner. And I want to, try and be in bed for those 2 conference title games or 3 conference title games Friday night. So that takes us there. And then, get up early. I'll usually get up 5:30, 6. Go tape a couple Sports Center things for the morning Sports Center with Desmond. Kirk does that too. And, everybody comes in at their own times. And, that last hour we're on the set getting ready, and we'll give the people 3 hours and fired up. We don't have to wait for a night game. Usually those are some long days when your energy goes up so much from doing 3 hours of game day with the crowd and all that. And then you got a lull there. But now with a 4 o'clock kick, I'm fired up. Last year was my first SEC title game, and I was blown away. Just how cool it is. The crowd, 50-50. I know you guys will have about 70. So Texas is going to bring their 30% and be a little bit louder. But no matter what happens on any play, the place is rocking. And that's what makes it great. And just going back through the years and seeing what this game and what's at stake, I think is huge. And I know everybody was, throwing the BS around about, they want, don't go to your conference championship game because, you want a week off and then screw that. I want to go play and win a championship and then earn a bye. That's where I think it's more important. I think both head coaches going into Saturday in Atlanta would say the same thing. Like, this is what you play. This is one of the goals you have all year. And like I said, plenty at stake, but to earn that bye on the other side is what no one has talked about. And I think it's more important than not making your conference title game.
Good point. And the one thing I always like about you is competitiveness. I mean, you'd like to go out there and run a few snaps. I mean, you enjoy being on the sideline and interacting and watching those kids. That's really, really something. And let's just talk a little bit about your relationship with Scott. Through the years, you've been tight, and it's obvious you got that brotherhood type of deal. But talk about the move to Washington and how you've reacted to it with your family and everybody. And he's now putting that show on from D.C. where he's from, and certainly it's a tremendous show, and everybody looks forward to it.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind, man. We met way back, probably before I met you. Probably right after when he started his afternoon radio show. I did Game Day Radio with Ryan Russillo, so Ryan became part of Scott's show. They became SVP and Russillo, and I would just be in the room with them on a Monday after Ryan and I were on the road, talking about the game, what we had, and Scott and I just struck up a friendship then. And, we pride ourselves as being being game watchers. You know, we want to watch the games. We want to, you know, not worry about all the off the field stuff. So when he went to TV, he wanted me to come with him, and I was a little hesitant because I had never done TV. I was a radio guy. I didn't have to worry about putting makeup on and getting nice clothes and all that. So it was a change of scenery for sure, but fun as hell. And I owe everything to him. People want to talk about the bad beats. That was all his idea. I'm just along for the ride. And it's been 10 years since he started SVP Sports Center. The last 2 years, he's added on to Monday Night Countdown. So I'll go from game day to Monday Night Countdown and meet him and do countdown. And then we do bad beats from the stadium wherever we are. So my weekends are pretty stacked with travel and work. And we got a couple days off here. It's good that we only got a short flight to Atlanta this week. I could actually get home Saturday night after the game, and Sunday we'll have the playoff reveal, and then Monday we'll go to Dallas for Monday night for the Cowboys Bengals, big one. So definitely there'll be a little more energy in the building Saturday in Atlanta than there were in Dallas.
You told me you were in Denver on Monday night, so just moving all around the country. So okay,
just praying those pick sixes away. That's all you were doing on Monday night.
Oh man.
I want to get close to your heart, Steve, here with Stanford hiring Andrew Luck as a general manager. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you perceive that role to be, and if this is a bit of a test run for college football to have general managers in roles for the football teams.
Yeah, talking to Andrew, there's a bunch of us that just, not happy with what's going on. We joined a conference and we're at the bottom of the conference and no bowl game again. And it's been a while. There's a chance. I mean, we've seen it proven that you can win there. In this day and age of the transfers and NIL, it's a little different, but I still think they have the resources to do it. And Andrew went to the president, and the president basically said, "You want to run it?" And he being the competitor he is, he took that opportunity. And it's super fun. In my lifetime, I never got to see John Elway or Plunkett play at Stanford. In my lifetime, Luck's the face of the university. Not a smarter, tougher, better competitor, smarter person that I could think that if there is going to be this responsibility, that I would want any other person in charge of it. It sounds like Oklahoma is actually going to do the same thing in there. So, like, when you talk about could it change, it's different. I think a lot of people are scared of change. There's plenty of people that have voiced their opinions, but I think it's the people in the building know what it takes, and if you need added resources, you go get them, and that's what Stanford's doing here. The idea in college that the head coach is going to report to the GM, it's basically an NFL model. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm super confident. We need some kind of energy, a boost, some juice in the program, and we got it now with Andrew in charge, and I'm super fired up to try and help out.
Yeah, I know that Oklahoma has got this guy Stevenson who was AT&T CEO, and he's actually an OU grad, and he's going to come on and kind of show them the business model that they use and incorporate that a lot, like you said. And it's an ever-changing deal for sure. So, in the last few minutes here, Georgia fans have got their feelings about Georgia and about everything around here. What's it like for you to interact with Kirby and the Georgia people here, and how have you seen the program evolve since you've been involved?
Well, first of all, I think the world of Kirby as a person, remembering him as a player, knowing what he brings to the table. I'm worried I'm in the doghouse though, because when he came on in Athens, his son wanted to come on the set. So we made a little eye contact. Kirby told him to stay there. I waved him on up so he could get some pictures on the set. So I don't know if he got in trouble for that with Kirby. So I gotta test the waters before I see him. But no, from the outside, it's as good as I go back to my radio days, Coach. Claude Felton, SID for how many years there. No matter what the time request was, Claude always got back to me. There was a genuineness there, whether it was a yes or a no. I just appreciated that he always got back to me. And being an up and comer, a youngster, didn't know really how it works, and he was super nice. And when you go through Georgia's program, you know what you're getting. There's that emblem of the G, and it doesn't lie. It was really cool to see them win the back-to-back titles. Being a little Georgia fan when I was little, watching Garrison Hurst and Eric Zier, like those were my guys, and they could never darn beat Tennessee in those years. So it came full circle being on the sidelines a couple weeks ago and watching Tennessee and Georgia get after it in a night game, which was super cool. But no, the best of the best, man. I don't, people want to talk about brand these days. Georgia's as big as there is. I really am astounded by the change in the game day atmosphere for games that Stanford Stadium's brought to the table, man. Like, that thing is chaos. The way they pump the music in between every play, and like, that DJ got some work to do, man, because during Tennessee, there's not a lot of time in between plays, and he's still revving it up. And just to see their guys always in the pregame, it's really, really cool to see the change in the energy, and that's all Kirby. Making it for the players, what the players want, creating that home field advantage. He made a point of it after that Tennessee game about, I'd like to see some people come here and play, talking about how hard it is to win in a night game in the SEC. And a lot of the people that don't understand it, they've never experienced it. And I don't know what else to tell them, that you just got to go there and see it. So I think the world of what Kirby has done there. Going back to what you did in your years there, being a factor, and always, being that team that always like, oh, we gotta play Georgia. Okay. We know we got to buckle up for 60. So it's awesome. I can't wait for Saturday, knowing the proximity you guys have and the energy you guys bring to that dome, and knowing the bad taste that was in your mouth last year, leaving that stadium. So I'm fired. They got off to a good start against Clemson in that building to start the year. So I'm sure they're expecting the same this week.
Last one from me, Steve. I like to ask all of Coach's friends, what is it about him that connection has remained? Because it's been a while since he was up there in Bristol as often. And I get to see that on a daily and weekly basis as we've become family friends. But what is it about Coach Donnan that when you come to Athens and have such a busy schedule, that he's still a part of it for you?
Well, we can't pump him up too much. We got. I mean, he's always getting good things said about him. No, Coach is the best storyteller I've ever been around. And his memory, he's old man. He goes back to, he's throwing game plans. What was that before one of the Oklahoma games this year? Coach had he's throwing around what the game plan was and his personnel and the injuries he had and what Coach Switzer and the players used to do on bye weeks. It's amazing how he can retain it. It shows, what kind of man he is and remembering that. And he never forgot. He told me a great story about going out to meet with Coach Bill Walsh back in the day. And Coach Walsh turned his head like, Coach knew what he was talking about as a youngster. And he went to talk to the best in the business. So they're not a better storyteller there is. And I truly appreciate our friendship. He's done a ton for me. In suggestions, and he also is the best guest booker I've ever seen. To be able to get a guy like, Coach, what did you get? Jim Tressel on the morning of the Ohio State Michigan game?
Yeah, that made him mad up there, boy. But I got him on ESPN radio, and they couldn't get him on the game day.
And he got Joe Paterno never did anything, and Coach would get Joe Paterno to call into his shows. So. There's a lot of loyalty there, and I know that's what you're built on, Coach. Getting a chance to meet some of your family, and what you've raised, and how loyal they are, it's really, really cool. And I appreciate being able to call you a friend.
Hey, well, you know how I feel about you too, and we got to pull them through. I forgot to ask, what do you think about our Stanford having a kid in here playing tight end? Yurosek seems like he's really developed.
Yeah, he's I thought, he was in the Pac-12 last year. He put together a couple good years. And then at the beginning of the year, not a deer in headlights, but I think the speed was something that he hadn't seen. whether it's, trying to block, ends on split zone or, reaching and running on the edge. I think, there was a learning process and a learning curve he had to get to. But to see the way he's come on has been super impressive. They got 3 really good ones. I expect him to be part of the game plan. But, I like it because he stayed in the fight, and the coaches didn't give up on him. He brings a real good receiving vibe to that position, and knowing the struggles that Georgia's had in the past game, it's another option to have. So it's really cool to see him overcome some adversity and be playing his best football at the end of the season.
Yeah, he's one of the most improved guys on the roster, and it just goes to show you the coaching. Everybody talks about Kirby recruiting and all, but I think their development of players is one of their really key areas of how they win here. All right, looking forward to seeing you either Friday or Saturday, and I know our fans have been clamoring for you to come back on. We're going to make you say that you're going to promise to come on next year if I'm still here. Hopefully, old coach is kicking in, but we need a promise you'll be back on with us next year.
I promise anything that involves you, Coach. You know that.